Hi guys, it's Luna and welcome back to another video. This is a continuation of the part 1 of me looking at the Cryaotic situation, and we looked at some statements from Beanie and Ocean, but we're gonna move on and go a little bit deeper into the situation. Let's go on to Snake for right now. Now, unlike the people we talked about so far, from what I can grasp, Snake was one of the 3 or 4 people, including Cry, who are part of the late night stream crew. And I assume that they were friends or something like that, or they were a little bit more closer, but from what we're about to read, that might not be the case. Going through all of Snake's tweets and things like that, most of it was almost just blatant statements that were like, I don't really fuck with these people like that. But let's go through and read some of them so you can understand what I mean by that. So he made this tweet, which says, I received a DM regarding a question that I saw a lot of yesterday, but couldn't properly convey my full answer due to the nature of the conversation yesterday, and the fact that some of it is a little tough for me to voice. I've been authorized to share my response for context. Now before I read this, I'm sorry, I've been kind of reading weird. Like, I've been tired lately, so I'm sorry if it just sounds like I'm stilted or stiff. I'm tired. Give me a break, okay? Anyways, someone DM'd him and said,
Hey Snake, I don't know if you'll answer DMs, but I wanted to ask you about the crew's relationship with Cry. In your stream, you said you only ever really talked on the late night stream and kept it very professional. So did the rest of the crew for the most part. But why was that? I always wondered why you guys didn't make more of an effort to all be close friends, and even friends at all, seeing as it sounds like you didn't really consider Cry a friend. It was addressed by Cry himself in a previous stream, yet no one ever tried to make the change to get closer. Why though? I guess basically, was the friendship between you guys really fake and you guys really never bothered to change it, or like,
what the fuck? Basically, what are your relationships with this man? Tell us what's happening.
I can only really speak for myself here. For me, it was a combination of factors. I wasn't officially a member of the crew until 2014, after Red's departure outside of the person that brought me into the stream in the first place, Jun. I wasn't terribly involved with any of them. I showed up once a week to play games with a bunch of fun people. That was enough for me. I have a completely separate group of friends that I've known for years prior to meeting the crew, and I've always made a point to separate for the sake of boundaries. On top of that, I had, well, a life. I was taking my time through college for a good chunk of the early 2010s, all the way to, and that consumed most of my time in general, let alone online. On top of that, from the back end of 2012 all the way to the end of 2013, I was in an extremely emotionally abusive online relationship. The person that I was with demanded a great deal of my time and energy, and she did everything in her power to keep me from spending time with anyone else but her up until I ended the relationship. From there, from the middle of 2014 to the beginning of 2018, I was in another relationship with someone that threw me tangentially, I'm not gonna be able to say that word. Got to know the member of the crew, and as far as I'm aware, had various degrees of negative feelings for almost everyone involved, such as any time I spent with the members outside of the official work setting caused extreme high function between the two of us, as well as between myself and other members of the crew. And frankly, I'd already been conditioned to be apprehensive of spending time elsewhere via prior relationship. Over the course of the 3.5 years relationship from 2014 to 2018, I remember spending time with the members outside of work/stream exactly 3 times. The final factor is that the multiple incidents of tension and drama that was swirling around us behind the scenes for years, even if the other factors weren't applicable, distancing myself from everyone to avoid that kind of conflict is something I still would have done, and that alone had made me consider more than once removing myself from the group entirely. I instead opted to keep everyone at arm's length because despite appearances and assumptions, it really doesn't take much effort to have a good time in a group setting playing games once a week, and it doesn't require any kind of closeness that everyone thinks it does.
Now, for me to summarize this statement, basically, I don't fuck with these people. I don't fuck with them. They're not my friends. I didn't see them like that. We just play games sometimes. I didn't know these people like that. I don't care about this dude. Fuck him type shit. I really have not shit to do with this. Now, here's my problem with a lot of people's statements that are like this. You knew they were shitty, and you chose to stay in contact and be around and almost enable shitty behavior. Because even if you guys didn't know that any of this was going on and you didn't know the ages of the people, because a lot of the people, I mean, hell, I didn't even know, even though they were in the situation. You still knew that he cheated on his girlfriend. You still knew that he was an asshole. You still knew that the people in this group probably weren't the best to hang out with, and you still chose to go in there. So it should be a thing of, yes, this happened, and I apologize for it, and they tend to use a lot of excuses. I'll give Snake this. Out of all of them, I feel like I would be able to forgive this person more if I cared about the situation because of what he says and how he says it. But, once you read on, it's kind of just like everybody has the same type of, I mean, we knew something, we know the entire thing. It's like, you still knew an asshole. It doesn't mean even if Cry isn't a predator and all this comes back that it's fine and all this stuff that was alleged isn't even true anymore, he's still an asshole. He's still somebody that cheated on their girlfriend several times. Like, he's just the worst person right now. And right now, even with the knowledge I had at this moment, it was kind of like everybody seemed shitty in the situation. Everybody did something equally as wrong, but let's read on. But Snake did put out a twit longer called Moving Forward. Now, with these twit longers, I read a lot, and I've been reading a lot of tweets. I'm not reading these. If you guys want me to, I can upload a video on my channel basically having like a text-to-speech robot read the twit longers to you if you want to, just to have it there for a video or whatever. But honestly, I'm not reading this shit right here. I might read it if somebody pays me, but not like this, no, because like I've been reading too much. I read these like once before and the recording fucked up, so I'm not reading them again. But I will summarize to you basically what is said or talk to you about the most important parts of it at this point. Again, I honestly don't feel like they took a lot of accountability for their actual actions, and I feel like, yeah, you're kind of getting heat and hate and stuff like that, but honestly, at this point, you guys made the wrong decision, and you kind of gotta live with it and live with the consequences of your actions. But this is actually not that bad of like a plan. It's genuinely him moving forward, not just, oh, I don't want to hear about this shit anymore at all. It has pretty okay and great steps of how he can be better and how he can move on forward and what he should do and what he's learned from the situation. From what I'm reading, it's pretty okay. I mean, you could pick it apart if you want, but for all that's happened, and trust me, out of a lot of the responses I've read, this is the best, I would say, in the sense of just going forward with life. It's not just, I'm gonna go forward and try to act like this never happened. he's taking lessons from it and moving forward in that way. Even at the bottom, it's like, regarding Cry, whatever you want to call them. He's going to take the information from different accounts and other people, and he's gathering that information and bringing it to the proper platforms to try to, I wouldn't say deplatform him, but give them that information so they can make the proper decisions. But he seemed to be taking the proper steps, and I do appreciate that. You guys can read the twit longer. It's on his Twitter if you want to. I know he also did make a stream that I mentioned earlier about the situation, and I'll try to give little clips here and there about it.
Everything that Cry has done is repulsive, vile, and disgusting. Like, there's no getting around that whatsoever. There's nothing that anyone can say that can make any of it better. There's a bunch of talk going around about who knew what and when and all of that. So I want to officially set the record straight, like go on record by outlining what I knew. What I knew was that Cry cheated on Cheyenne, and I knew who with. I did not know that person, and after she told us that he cheated and who it was, she told us that they were not allowed on late night anymore. And I said, okay, and distanced myself from that person. Didn't really know anything about them, even before that. And I managed to distance myself from the rest of them as well when that drama started surfacing. So when all of this started cropping up, to say it was news to me would be an understatement. I have various accounts, first hand or otherwise, of victims in all of this, and the more I uncovered, I talked to a group of like mutual acquaintances and friends on Saturday evening, which is where I learned everything that had transpired, and later got full accounts, or at least a full account from at least one victim. And the more information I got, the more perverse it got. So I don't think it really, maybe it does need to be stated that the LNC is done. I'm done with that. We're all done with that. What I did was started making plans. I have been trying to secure my own, basically my own future well enough to get out and break away for months now. Russ tweeted he and Cry hadn't been friends for a while. Are you able to elaborate on this? So, to be perfectly frank, I was never really, the closest I've been with any of them at any point has been with Jund. I know about Cry messaging. I did not know about Cry messaging a 16-year-old girl. That is not something I had any knowledge of. I'm not entirely sure what Aziz is referring to. I have a list of people, of victims. Some have been, some are public, some are not, so I'm not gonna go into that list. Do I talk to Cry since everything? No, I haven't talked to Cry at all. Do I know if Cry engaged in anything physical with a minor? I do not know that for sure. I haven't seen anything that indicates that he has been physical, but I am not going to say one way or another that he is not. I don't know how explicit I want to be, if only because it's not really my story to tell. But I will say that the acts that Cry performed were absolutely illegal. Do I think Cry has changed, or do I think he's trying to save face? So my personal take is that his video was not genuine because it left so much out. Do I think he should go to jail for what he's done? Well, what he did was illegal, so I don't know anything about the statute of limitations on this or how recent some of it is, but if it is legality of it is bullshit. He should be penalized in some way, regardless. Planning on speaking up after his video if he doesn't tell yes. I'm not going to come forward with information that would be compromising to any of the victims, but I'm going to call out any inconsistencies I see. The Cry lie by knowing the ages. I'm not entirely sure if the person that he was referring to in the video is someone that he lied about, but he left out so many others that it may as well have been a lie of omission, as far as I'm concerned. Because there is one person whose accounts are public now that align with his story in that video. Did I know that Cry started dating Cheyenne before she was 18? To my knowledge, Cheyenne said that they started dating when she was of age. Didn't she defend that for a very long time? And it only came out after the fact that they were talking when she was younger. You don't quit your job because your boss cheats on their significant other. You do your job and you don't deal with that person. As far as I knew, he simply cheated. I didn't know it was with a minor. But I think his mental breakdown on stream the other, I'm not a doctor. I don't, it seemed like a buildup, but I'm not going to claim to know anything that was going on with him then. As of right now, I have some public, some not. So I'm not going to divulge this name, but I have tallied 14 people who have, and that's not all of them are minors or were minors, but just people that he has been inappropriate with in some way or another. Again, not all of them are minors, not even the majority, but that, again, and that's not even to protect him. I just don't want to have it twisted. I don't want anyone saying that I want to be accurate. I want the information I'm giving to be accurate. That's after digging, yes. This is all digging that I did, I've done since Saturday.
So you guys, at least her feelings there, but also you could just go watch the stream. It's a long stream, but I mean, if you care, you can go watch what he had to say. But we're gonna go back a bit and back to Ocean, because there's one more part of Ocean's Square that I want to talk about, but I want to transition it into the next person we're gonna talk about. Now, I did see a tweet that Ocean quote tweeted on his Twitter, and the person he was quote tweeting was Scott Jude, one of the members of the stream group Cry was a part of. Now, the picture he had up was basically explaining things in the twit longer. Okay, again, I'm kind of tired of reading twit longer, so I'm just gonna summarize. But what I'm gathering from this twit longer, it's that Shay right now is believing that everyone knew about what happened and that they knew this was happening and just turned a blind eye to it. Him and everyone else seems to be vehemently denying any of this and saying that they only knew that at one point there were screenshots of sexual roleplay text messages with a 16-year-old about 6 or 7 years ago. But it was legal in Florida, so they thought it was kind of okay, and it was like, well, I mean, it happened, but there's nothing legal about it, so, we can't really, it's creepy, but it's a one-off situation type of thing. They knew at one point, not really knowing specific dates, but they knew at one point that Cry was fooling around with Russ's girlfriend, all of these things, and then it got kind of hazy and weird, and, they talked to Russ about it, and they all kind of just like, I mean, it's shitty, but it was like a type of situation, Like, well, we can only do so much. Again, that's a shady thing to do, but it seems every time they would confront Cry with a lie, he would just lie more, or he would keep things from them to where they didn't know a lot of information, honestly. They have been keeping contact with a lot of the victims, and a lot of screenshots of Cry's conversations with victims, and Cry's conversation with them, and what they've been getting as far as information is in here, and I would like to share all of that, but honestly it's a lot and you can just read it yourself. But I'm going to give a brief summary of it. I'm not going to show all the screenshots because they don't really show a lot of proof. It's more of just like, here's proof that I think this is happening. It's not really like a lot of stuff. And then the little proof that there is of like what was happening and confirmation that things were happening and stuff like that. Again, it's not that serious where I should probably include it. Honestly, at this point we have enough information to put judgment out there, but I don't know if you guys want me to read these twit longers or whatever in full. I can do that in a different video, but today I'm just like, I'm reading a lot, okay? They also said Shay lied about her age, so it made it also a little bit difficult because you're not just gonna press someone for their age. It's just gonna be like, okay, well, I'll just believe you because what else would I do? And then was pushing the age of consent, so it seemed like a lot of it was more or less ignorance, but I would still hold them accountable for what they are doing. I feel like they need to take a little bit more accountability for their actual part in it and what they just let slide and what they didn't say and what they didn't do, because it sometimes, especially in this twit longer especially, it just comes off as like, I mean, I didn't technically do anything wrong, I mean, I'm sorry, but like, it's kind of coming off like they're brushing it a little bit, but that's just how I feel about it. And it does show Cry still contacting victims, and it's obviously making them uncomfortable or upset, or he's shifting the blame, and in some cases I feel like he really is shifting the blame. And there's just so much that is in here that really could have been summarized shorter if you took out the parts that weren't so great. Honestly, with this twit longer, my real problem is that they kept putting their emotion into it and then not really, I feel like they didn't really understand the situation fully anyways, and they were just kind of going off of emotion. Someone else should have wrote this, definitely, and put out the statement. I feel like from what Snake's statement was, he should have did it because he was a bit more chilled in the situation and wasn't more emotionally charged than this person, but he didn't name any victims that didn't want to be named, and he kept the privacy of the victims, which I appreciate. But again, even him just linking to the Snakes moving forward twit longer, no, you should have made that yourself. You should have acknowledged what you did wrong and what you need to do to move forward. Sure, it might apply to what Snake has to do to move forward, but just it would be easier coming from you than you just blasting all of your feelings and hatred towards Cry and then being like, I get that they're friends and all of that, but it just would have been a better look. And this is a statement Ocean made on the Twit Longer. I'm gonna read it now.
I retweeted this initially while I was working and I didn't have time to fully address this. Image 1, 7, and 9, and 13 were all from me. I appreciate Scott respecting my privacy, but not naming names on a few of the images involved. Well, I don't want people to continue to rag on him for not revealing information, since there seems to be some debate on how Scott, Snake, and Russ had to have known my age. I also abate that. The only time I spoke to any of the three of them was on stream. They were never a part of the Cryaotic mod Skype group. The only people who knew my age were Cry and Z.
And basically the rest of it was talking about how they weren't aware of his age from what they know, that Chai told them about Cry cheating on her, and that when he joined the server, they kicked him off and they tried to talk to him, sure, message him, but it was never like about the age or anything like that, and he would never tell anyways because it would get back to Cry and Z, and they just didn't know that information. He goes into a little bit more detail on it, and you can read the full thing, and I was going to read it, but honestly I could summarize it down, honestly. But from what we know, none of the people that live stream with Cry knew about the underage people. They knew that he was cheating and that he had infidelities with someone else, and they knew he was kind of an asshole and did assholish things, but from what we understand, they did not know the extent of his interaction or grooming of minors. Now, we can talk about Shay a little bit, but honestly, there's not a lot to talk about Shay. A lot of the information that would have came from her is already confirmed or denied, or there's not really a lot of weight to what she says, because from what we can see, I don't know why, because I know the situation that she had, or a situation that she was in, but people see her as a known liar, and she's kind of seems not unbelievable or anything like that. She just seems like she works off of emotion and doesn't get all the information before she just feels her feelings, which is understandable in the situation that she was in. She was cheated on, lied to. I think at this point she's like, I feel something, I'm just gonna lash out instead of just taking the time and be figuring everything out first. It's like, no, I need to feel my feelings first, which again, I can totally understand. There was some indication of the guys might be lying, because one of them, I believe there's a screenshot on her Twitter of one of them maybe being aware via someone saying them an anonymous message on Tumblr, I think it was, basically being like, hey, this guy might be a groomer, maybe you should say something about it, or maybe you should look into this, and the guy was just like, fuck off, I'm brushing that aside, which makes a lot of sense because it's on Tumblr, and I'm sure she's just not feeling validated like she thought she would, or she's thinking that if everybody admits to it that she'll feel better about it and closure and all of that, and I think she's just a bit damaged, and so I'm not going to read some of her tweets and things like that. If you want to read her tweets, you can. That's more of her story and her life and what's happening to her, and it's only relevant in the sense of if you want to hear the victim's story. I encourage you to go read what's on her Twitter, but it's not like a vital piece of information other than she is the girl who was in a relationship with Cry for several years, and she got cheated on, and she was groomed because she was very much underage when they got into a relationship, and she's just one of the victims. And not to diminish her in any way by saying that, it's just, there's not a lot to say on her at this point. In my opinion, I might have missed something, or I might just be going over the screenshots and didn't see something that I found was important for this video. We're gonna move on to the last person I'm going to talk about, at least in this video, and that is Russ. Now, I say the last person, in no way, shape, or form are they the only victims, or this is the only people in the situation. This is just all of what I gathered to at least form a decent opinion about the situation. There's people like Angel, there's this user, I can't remember their name at this point, but there's also, I think, a few other people that I saw that were involved in some way that either had stories, or they're victims, or they're part they're part of it in some way, and you can go check them out or talk to them or do more research on this. But right now with Ross is a part of the streamer group that Russ, Judd or Scott, Snake, and Cry are part of. And I know Russ made a stream on the situation, but he just seems awful heartbroken about the situation from what I can tell, because he had more of a emotional aspect of it, more close to Shay's, in the sense of how he felt about Cry. So like I said, he has very emotional feelings about it. His story, which he has a twit longer, but what happened to him was, from what I understand, and this is in the twit longer that he has, which I will link in the description hopefully. Basically, his girlfriend confessed to him that she had cheated on him with Cry, and they kind of moved past it and was like, you know what, it's whatever. But later he did fall in love with someone else, and he was really infatuated with this person, and Cry started being around this girl more, and it seemed like they were hanging out a lot more without him. He told Cry, hey, I got feelings for her, could you just not, did you guys do anything, by the way? It's like, no, not really, just harmless flirting, it's really not that serious. But turns out later that they've been dating for several years, I believe, and just never told him, and that was way more than harmless flirting. And the girl in question, allegedly Angel, from what he's saying, was passing around the DMs of how he was feeling and what, emotionally sharing with her, and Chronic and them were just passing around and just being kind of assholes about it. And so he felt very brokenhearted. He was betrayed. It was like he was lied to. He kept being like, they just did that boy dirty. Like, you can read the entire situation, and he blocked Angel and all that, never spoke to them again. But they did him really dirty, basically. And Cry was not shit for doing any of that shit. Punk ass bitch. And so apparently he's just now learning about all of what happened, and it's just like, I feel like for him it's like, I'm not fucking surprised. So that's kind of his role in it from what I can see. He did have another message, but I did not read it, so I don't know. But I know there's another twit longer on his page, but I believe it's just more of like I'm taking a break type thing. And with all that being said, I think we have enough information, and I'm really tired, my neck is stiff, but we have enough information to make somewhat of a conclusion to all of this, and at least form an opinion, or at least I do. Okay, finally we can get to Cry and his tweets and all of his videos. Now, there's not a lot, because I'm not sure if he just deleted it or I'm just making it up, because there was more than what I thought there was. But there's only a few tweets we can go through and 2 videos. So now I'm going to show you a bit of his apology, or basically the video that he made addressing the situation. So here that is.
When I was younger, I started this YouTube because I didn't really have a purpose in life. I needed something to give me some kind of purpose. I didn't have any actual confidence. I got my confidence from people telling me, man, you're great. That was immature. Also, doing this, I had never really left my room for so long. I'd grown so much that I didn't realize I was a fucking adult, but I was mentally a child. That is not an excuse, for the record. I've always felt disingenuous because I was never open with people about things, because I was always hiding things. I was never able to be genuine with people anymore after the fact that I cheated on my girlfriend with people who I didn't realize were even underage in the first place. So yes, I'm sorry. But I promise you I'm not that same fucking person anymore, and I resent that person who I was. And I'm sorry that I was hiding who I was this whole time. I've never wanted to be on a pedestal in the first place. And I think that's because I was always afraid of people knowing who I really was. Just some lonely guy trying to find a purpose. Just some lonely guy who genuinely is someone who would be considered a basement dweller, but luckily I live in Florida, so there's no basements. It took me 31 years. It took me until 10 minutes before my 31st birthday to realize I was going in a constant projection of fucking nothing, because I never really accepted who I was. I always made excuses, and I'm fucking sorry for that. I'm not gonna say any more because this is not some pity party. This is more addressing the things that need to be said, more so than giving people their dirt or tea or whatever the fuck they need. I feel like a lot of people are afraid of ridicule, prejudices, and bullying. They are afraid of people picking on them because they're showing their genuine human emotion. I feel like people need to be okay with doing that, even if it makes them be the bad guy, because that's the most human thing you can possibly do. And I'm fucking sorry again.
So basically, the video is low-key just kind of like a vague, weird apology, and then like a eye-opening type moment, but it was vague and it made no sense. And literally, unless you saw the whole context of the situation I just showed you, you wouldn't even kind of understand what the fuck he's talking about. And he just sped past through all of the allegations and everything. Didn't he barely even brought that shit up in any way, shape, or form? I didn't even know there was more than one person he did this with. I was under the impression that it was just the one person and that was it. Hell, with all what I just saw, I'm like, man, there are some people that I haven't even talked about yet. It's crazy. So that happened and confused many people, but kind of people were like, we don't know what's going on, and that's why I wanted to show you guys the evidence first. But then in that video he talks about a live stream that he links to underneath the video, and it's unlisted, and I'm going to show you parts of that live stream. Again, you can go watch it if you want to. It's just him having like a manic type episode. It's really weird. Here you go.
Vacancy. I don't know. My goal, seriously, I'm not bullshitting. I have nothing to gain from lying to you guys. I'm just here to try to make you guys happy, because I'm not a material guy. I've tried to explain this to people all the time, and they just think, whatever. But I fucking got into YouTube when there was nothing to be gained. I did it because my ex at the time said, hey, record yourself playing Amnesia. My fucking house is a shit show. And I don't have desire for things because I've been supporting my sister for so long. And I haven't started my life yet. See, this is very personal. I'm gonna regret saying this later, but I feel like being open with you guys, okay? I haven't had to start my life yet. I'm 31. I'm not looking at chat, by the way. I'm totally like looking to the right. This is great. So anyway, I just like, it was one of those things where just like, I need to make change in perspective. Perspective is very important, all right? Never have the perspective of, fuck, you are always wrong. Everything you're saying is wrong. Welcome to gaslighting, motherfucker. You get gaslit. So, understand that sometimes just because you think you're wrong because they keep telling you wrong, no, you're probably fucking right, okay? So, understand that you deserve to have your shit fucking heard and respected.
Okay, now I'm gonna read some tweets off from him that are on his Twitter. Okay, I lied straight to your faces because, yeah, a lot of the stuff he deleted. I will read you his statement, and honestly, the stuff that he deleted really didn't help it, but this is still a statement, so let's read it. Okay, on the 21st of June, this is what he said, and this is the last thing we've heard from him.
The last video was posted during a manic state. It is not accurate of what a proper apology looks like. I deeply regret it, as I never let the actual discussion properly be had. This will be rectified in the future video, after I properly address those affected. Individually, instead of how I chose to haphazardly go about this vain attempt to save face like a coward so many people have done before me. I do not want to delete it, because everyone's concerns and complaints are 100% valid, and I should not be skirted around anymore. I apologize for my actions, but I promise to deliver a proper, coherent explanation, keeping truly factual descriptions with no attempt at guarding sympathy, but addressing what's needed to be said when people are hurting. I need to come to grips that I was projecting my own insecurities constantly, telling people I never cared what people thought of me, and it is time for me as a man to address that and so much more. Thank you for your patience while I take care of those personal matters in the next few days, and I'll let my actions in the future speak for more than these words here ever will.
And that was on the 21st, right? He said a couple days. Let's see. It is July 11th. Not hide nor hear of this man anywhere. Somehow he had the time to change his icon to a burrito, and I think he may have even changed his background. Not a word, not a tweet, not anything. He's been talking to victims behind the scenes. He's been communicating with other people, but not a video, not a conversation. We keep waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's like, I tried to give the situation time for him to come out with an apology or whatever. I wasn't gonna accept it. There's way too much evidence to even consider it. He's just a shitty person, if nothing. And though he may come out with a video with receipts, basically a tell-all book of like, everybody's lying, I'm telling the truth, that could happen. You know what I mean? He's already admitted to most of all of it, but that could happen. But at this point, there's too much damage done for that to even matter at this point. It just low-key seems like he either didn't totally grasp what he did, or he just doesn't care about more than anyone else but himself. But that's just a speculation at this point. This whole situation is just very bizarre. But let's talk about my conclusion to the situation. Honestly, the only thing I can really say is, why is no one talking about this? With all of the evidence, this is the most evidence I've seen in a situation like this in a while. Most people don't even get screenshots out, you know what I mean, unless they're really pushed by the community. People are just coming out with conversations, stories, screenshots. They seem really honest. There's no information to say that either they're lying or they're not telling the truth. Hell, even he's being like, yeah, no, I mean, I did most of this, other than the grooming aspect. Everything else he's straight up just admitted to. And this is a channel with 2 million subs, and just no one is touching this. And people are calling Shane Dawson a predator before they call this guy out. It's weird. Honestly, I believe he did. All this is accusations, but I totally believe he did. And again, unless he comes out with a tell-all book of like, everybody's lying about the stuff that I haven't admitted to, then he's just a gross predator to me personally. But even if he comes out saying, you know, everything that I haven't admitted to, they're lying about, I'm be like, okay, well, you're still a shitty person. Either way, this is fucked. But yeah, that's everything that I think you need to know about the Cry situation, or Cryaotic, or whatever his name is, or however you explain it. This whole thing was emotionally draining, and I'm not even done. I was gonna come out with another video basically talking about like random pieces here or there that don't necessarily need to be said, I don't think, but are still important in my opinion. But I just didn't want to put it in this video because it's more of just understanding what the accusations are, the proof behind it, all of that. There are a few other pieces here that I want to share in a different video, but that's another video, and that's gonna probably be a while because this whole thing was exhausting. But that's all I gotta say. Maybe if you want me to cover this again when Cry finally comes out with that, you know, apology or that second video, which I honestly don't think he's coming out with. If that's the case, then comment down below. If you like this video, like it. If you want to subscribe, you can. I hate saying this, but turn on notifications because YouTube is really ain't notifying y'all about nothing. You guys can check out my Discord server. That's really fun. I do art mainly, so that's kind of mainly what it's for. But we talk, we chat, you can leave suggestions. It's a fun time. You should join. Anyways, this was a lot. This is gonna suck to edit, but I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.